Use my nuts as goggles on their eyes.
No Way Home. Alright, everybody put a plug in.
Aaron Jarrell, youtube.com/fight.
I don't do anything.
Here at the premiere of Spider-Man No Way Home. What if?
What do you think is gonna happen in this movie?
This is the first time I've ever seen a Spider-Man movie.
But No Way Home, definitely worth the wait. I would say 10 out of 10 movie. You gotta see this. You gotta see this film.
Oh, what is going on, you guys? MissedThePart here, back again with another video. I saw Spider-Man No Way Home on premiere in Canada. I'm not gonna tell you what theater I went to, but that was nuts. Like, that movie was, it was mind-blowing. So this is going to be my spoiler review for Spider-Man No Way Home, and I'm just gonna talk about my experience and what I thought about the movie. You know, I wanted to kind of dive deep into this film, but then again I was just like, you know what, I just want to like talk about like what happened. I want to talk about the experience and my general thought on this whole movie. So it was nuts. Like, this movie was something that I think a lot of people, like, we all knew what we were going into, but we didn't at the same time. Like, nothing was confirmed. In the back of my head, like, this is a spoiler review, so please leave now if you can't take it, because I'm gonna spoil stuff in like 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this movie was nuts, and I think a lot of people didn't think that Toby and Andrew were going to be in this movie, and like I was like, maybe it's possible. I was not looking at spoilers, and then I was spoiled like 2 things, and then I kind of went in and I was like, the way that this film was done in such a way that it made, with great power comes great responsibility, a line that is just like, you can't, like, that is the line. The whole film is about, with great power must also come great responsibility, because you have Tom Holland, who is a character that didn't really experience what Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield went through like tragedy. Yes, he did experience Iron Man and Avengers Endgame, but it was different. It was like the roles were reversed, and as the story goes along, like, Peter is really struggling after Mysterio had revealed his identity to the world, and it's affecting everybody. So MIT, like, Ned and Michelle, or MJ, couldn't even get into MIT, and here's Peter, like, he's all upset and stuff. And that was just a really cool dynamic, considering that anybody that knew Peter Parker, like, their entire life was ruined, and it was just Peter didn't learn those experiences. With great power must also come great responsibility. He had no responsibility, and later on in this movie, it's like it's taken like step by step, and he's like learning what this actually means. You know, Peter goes to Doctor Strange and he messes up 5 or 6 times, which was kind of an Easter egg considering all the villains. Like, there was like 6 villains if you include Tom Hardy's Venom. So the spell is like tampered with like 6 times or so. So 6 villains all go into the MCU universe knowing who Peter Parker is. So it's kind of like a reverse role where like everybody knew like Peter Parker was Spider-Man. So they get sucked into the MCU, and it was such a cool thing to see, because like Peter's like, oh god, like, I gotta get my friends into college. So then he goes on the bridge and he's web swinging, and the bridge scene, oh man, the crowd was roaring. Like, I looked at Travis, and I looked at my brother Aaron and Reese, like some of my buddies, and like I was just like, what the heck? And then like Chase, like another good friend, he was just like shocked. So we were all like, what is going on? Like, the bridge scene when Ock comes in and you just see the power within him. Like, he is mad. Like, this guy is not happy. He literally straight up tells him like, where's the machine? Like, you're dead. We get this massive fight scene that the crowd, like, I was going nuts. I lost my voice. So like Otto then learns that like, you know, like Peter isn't isn't that, like, he's not that world's Spider-Man. So then all of a sudden, like, Tom Holland Spider-Man, like, he just like does a little thing on his wrist, and like he like controls the arms via like Bluetooth, and like that was just sick. So like I loved that scene. Like there was a lot of good scenes that I think a lot of people really enjoyed, and you know, like there was a lot of funny moments and humor. Like it wasn't all rough around the edges as some of the reviews were saying the day before that I went. But anyways, long story short, like Peter gets back to the Sanctum Sanctorum. Doctor Strange is like, okay, you gotta like fix this because like all the villains are literally leaking into this universe, and if it's not done now, then the multiverse could collapse, and like all the people in infinite amount of universes know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. What pretty much happens is like Strange gives him the task, and he gives him this like magical box thing to like bring all of these villains back to their universes. And what's cool is that like, you know, Ned and MJ eventually like help Peter, which was kind of obvious. We all knew in the trailer that they were going to help at some certain capacity. So Strange gives him the stuff, and like they go on like a whole thing, because what happened is Peter meets the Green Goblin on the bridge. That whole scene with the goblin laugh, I was like, oh my god, like that was crazy. And then we get that like crazy transition. Like I loved it. Willem Dafoe did such a great performance. Like it was like, wow, like this is for real. So anyways, Peter's like tasked, he gets tasked to do this stuff, and we kind of like see him struggling through it. We're like, okay, like, you know, he's gonna need some help. And then Flint Marko, of all people, Flint Marko, like when he's going there, all he sees is just like Flint and then Electro, and it was like, what am I seeing? And like we saw the same score from TASM 2 with Electro, and he literally just completely shocked Tom Holland. Like that was sick, and Flint just helped him. Like it was like that whole thing was so good. I was blown away from that. And like some of the scenes, like when we saw Electro just like rising up, and like he was just like blue changing to yellow, was just like, oh my god, like that. What an experience. When everybody heard the song in the theater, like we all just were like blown away. Like I couldn't believe it. I don't think anybody could, but I was more shocked, I think, to see Sandman, because we didn't know what happened to him after Spider-Man 3. So like Sandman just kind of comes in here and he's like, okay Peter, like I'm gonna help you. And I thought Sandman was going to attack him, but like he didn't. So long story short, you know, like Peter's just like, okay, like we're gonna bring them in. So he brings in Electro after like tricking him. Like he pretty much like told him that like, oh, we're in like alternate universes. Like Peter has to bring in all these villains, and then he has to bring in like the last one, which is like Green Goblin. Green Goblin like manipulated Peter so bad in this. Like it was so good, because that's how Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin work. Seeing Willem Dafoe like switch between Goblin and like Norman at the same time was like so sketchy. Like it was so weird seeing. I loved that performance so much. Peter learns after he's captured all these villains, you know, he went to the feast, and then he was talking to Aunt May, grabbed Norman. Norman was there. He like broke his mask in an alleyway. That was like, what? Brings all the villains there, literally tells them like, okay, well, I gotta bring you home. But then Strange is like, well, you know, they're all gonna die fighting Spider-Man. Peter's like, I can't let this happen, because he doesn't want to kill these villains. Like he doesn't want to, because that's not who Spider-Man is. So Spider-Man and Strange kind of have like a scruffle, and Spider-Man wins, and he comes back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and he gives like the box to Ned and MJ, which like they ended up leaving, where like Peter and Aunt May help all of the villains out, which was such a cool scene, because it was like, you know, after everything that happened, like even this alternate Spider-Man that doesn't know these villains, he doesn't know the capacity and how dangerous they are, and he still puts his life on the line every time to help who he can. And Norman knows this, so he manipulates the entire thing, and it's a big manipulation. And then like when like Otto gets his chip fixed, and he's like, okay Norman, we're gonna fix you after, Norman just switches on a dime, and like the smile that he had, and like just the evilness, like the appearance was so bad. So there's this mega fight scene where like Tom and like Goblin are fighting, and then there's this one cool shot where like Goblin's like Like it's all like hell's broken loose. Everybody's free, like Lizard's free, everybody's going crazy. Goblin's getting punched in the face in a hallway, laughing his face off, like as he's getting punched. And I'm just like, oh my god, that's such a cool scene. Like that is so Green Goblin of him to like do that. And Goblin's just kicking his ass. Like he is just handing it to him. He's dishing it out. He literally threw him. Like, you think of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man getting like thrown into a car and like he hits his back. Dude, Tom gets like at least 3 or 4 stories. He just gets dropped in everyone. There's just a big fight scene. Like I was like the crowd, like we were all like, whoa, like Goblin's handing it to him. So like Goblin, like he really screws up Aunt May. Like Aunt May gets like, I don't know if she gets stabbed, but she gets cut bad with that glider somehow. When the glider comes in, and the whole like feast area gets like broken apart because Goblin's throwing pumpkin bombs. He leaves and he's like so psychotic, and like the way that he is, like Aunt May tries to help Peter as he's getting choked, but it doesn't like this, it doesn't work. So Goblin leaves, Aunt May's down for the count. Peter's just like, he's like, okay, like, you know, like it's not my problem. And then Aunt May kind of was like, you know, it is your problem. You gotta help people, you know, you can't kill these people. With great power must come great responsibility. And Peter's like, he learns that after, and he gets very mixed emotions, I think, when he sees that Aunt May's bleeding. Now that scene, people up ahead from me, I think like 2 rows ahead, like they were crying. Like people were like, it was bad. Like as in for emotions, like it was good, but like people were literally bawling when Aunt May died. He hardly had any time because, you know, the SWAT team and J. Jonah Jameson kind of ambushed the feast area while Goblin turned back to like, you know, the Green Goblin. So Peter doesn't get a lot of time to like talk to May, and she ends up dying, so he's like really sad. And then on the other end of it, like we see that like Ned and MJ are trying to like work their magic. They're like, okay, like we need to actually help Peter because it's like all the villains have gotten loose now. So they try to find Peter, but they find Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. Like when he took his mask off, everybody roared when he jumped through that portal. Every single person was like, oh my god, like it's all true. Like what? Like it was like, are you for real? So Andrew's there, you know, Michelle and Ned end up like getting another portal, and then Tobey effing Maguire shows up. So Tobey shows up. You know, there's some cool funny scenes with Andrew beforehand, before Tobey shows up, but when Tobey is revealed, it's just like, it's such a Sam Raimi type feel when he's walking through the portal, because he's just so awkward. But it's just like, okay, that is so Tobey's Peter Parker. Like he would do that. So he's just like saying hi, and then Andrew turns around and sees Tobey, and everybody screamed. Like that was, I'm still hyped from that. I'm just like, what? They both shoot their webs, and the sound effects are from the same movies, and I loved that. I was just like, the detail that Jon Watts did in this movie was so well done. Tobey flips over as Andrew flips over, but he like shoots his web shooter, and like, oh, it was so great. Such a great thing. But you know, Ned and MJ are just like, okay, like we need to help this version of Peter Parker, like our Peter Parker. So like Tobey and Andrew agree, like, okay, like we're going to have to help him. So they ask like, where would he go in a situation like this? And they kind of know where he's going. Both go as there's like this really nice moment with Ned, MJ, and Peter. And they're all kind of crying because like Aunt May had just died, and Peter's like, okay, like I want to kill him, like I want to kill the Goblin for what he did, because what he did was like the worst thing that could have happened to Peter. He lost everything, now he's lost Aunt May, like he has nothing left. As he's about to give up, then we have Tobey and Andrew just kind of looming. We see like their shadows casting at night, and it's such a nice scene. Like it's such a beautiful scene. They jump below conversation with Andrew, Tobey, and Tom, all versions of Spider-Man, when like Tom's like, it's not my problem, I'm sending you all home. Tobey's like, he brings up Uncle Ben, and then Andrew brings up Gwen, and I was just like, wow. Like the amount of fan service plus like storyline details in this one MCU movie was just so good. It made me so sad to hear like the Peter, like Tobey's Peter talking about Uncle Ben and how he got what he wanted But at the very end of it, it didn't change the fact that he had died. So Tom kind of learns of this, and they all start helping each other out, which was just an amazing scene when they're in the laboratory and they're all helping to get cures, because after everything they did, after all these villains did to all these 3 Spider-Men, they're all still willing to help. With great power comes great responsibility, because you know that deep down, like, they want to help these villains, send them home, and they want to do it right. So Tom and all of them, they end up getting all these cures, and they go to the Statue of Liberty that is now kind of like constructed into like a Captain America type. Like the Statue of Liberty has the shield, and I'm like, whoa, like what is this? So it's under construction, and they all kind of go there to lure the villains, because they know that like they gotta cure them, but like they're probably gonna try to kill us. So they make a bunch of jokes, and the humor with all 3 Spider-Men were just so cool. Like I loved that scene when Tobey brought up when like Harry died in Spider-Man 3. He's like, yeah, he just kind of died in my arms, and then Andrew's just like, it was mind-blowing. Like the amount of detail that this movie had was just, I loved it. The final act of the film where they all team up, they cure the villains, you know, Spider-Man, they pretty much did it all. Like the fight scenes and that one scene with Andrew and Tobey when they were talking was a great moment. In the web shooter scene, like I could go with each scene and just talk. But the entire movie itself was very nostalgic, a lot of fan service. It really kept me hyped. There was a few scenes though that I didn't really enjoy, where when Tobey cures Flint, they used archive footage because the original actor, like he couldn't do it, he was doing other things, which makes sense. But I didn't really like that. I felt so off with that, because I knew it was from Spider-Man 3 right when I saw it. I don't know what it was. But the whole final act of the movie where all 3 of them team up was just great. Like, they took each villain down, they all had their moments. Andrew saved MJ or Michelle as redemption. That was emotional when we saw that. Everybody in the theater was kind of really sad, because we all knew, like, Andrew knew how to save her, and he just dived in so fast, and it's so sad to see that, like, he knew that he could have saved Gwen. It's just he couldn't, you know, the circumstances. Goblin versus Tom, like the punches, like Tom pile drive, like he literally like Batista bombed him right into the Statue of Liberty, like the shield. They're fighting on the water. That was emotional. I knew like Goblin's just fully consumed, like he is so evil. Like Tobey and Andrew, they're just watching, because they're like, okay, what's he gonna do here? Tom's about to finish the deed off right then and there with the glider, and I was like, oh god, like this is it, like it's done. At the last second, Tobey takes the glider, and he's just like, that scene was the biggest emotional scene ever, because Tom knows that Aunt May wouldn't want that to happen. You know, she wouldn't want Tom to do that. And Tobey's kind of there to remind him of the past conversation that they had. And then he realizes that as Tobey's just like holding the thing, and everybody was in shock. We were all like, everybody was looking. It was like, what? Tobey stops him, but he gets stabbed, and then Andrew just runs, and he's like, what? Like, I was like, what the hell's going on? I thought he was gonna die. And then, you know, they cure him at the end, and then at the very end, what has to happen is that Tom knows what he has to do. He has to be responsible enough to make all of this right, and even if that makes him not have what he wants, and he wants all his friends to know, but he doesn't want the world to know, sometimes you have to give up the things that you want the most. And you know, that's something that we learned in Spider-Man 2, but Tom learns this himself, and he says to Strange, like, okay, let's shut the portal down, let's shut it all down, let's send everybody home, let's forget everybody. So everybody like starts forgetting, but at the same time there were scenes where like we saw Kraven, I swear I saw Carnage and like Scorpion, I don't know who it was, but Tom does the ultimate sacrifice. Everybody forgets, but I think Tobey and Andrew's Spider-Man, they still remember it, because since they are Peter Parker and they are Spider-Man, I do believe that the spell will not work on them, but it will work on everybody else. Maybe not, I could be wrong. What a performance, man. Like, what a movie that was. Like, there were some scenes with Otto and Peter, like Tobey, and he's like trying to do better. Like, I was like, oh man. And with Andrew and Max Dillon, like like Electro. That was kind of emotional too, because it was like, you know, Electro, the world did him wrong, and he was just really sorry for what had happened to him, and it was awesome. I loved this movie. It was sad, like really, like the storyline so good. I just really enjoyed this movie. Now, although there was scenes that I didn't really like with, like, you know, Sandman and how they took archive footage of Lizard at the very end, like, you know, just nitpicking a little things, but overall this movie was very well done. And at the very ending, it was just sad to see, because like Tom Holland, like his version of Spider-Man, like he knew he couldn't talk to Michelle or Ned, because, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, and he didn't want to unmask because he knew that what the consequences could be again, and he wouldn't want to go through that again. So everybody forgot who Spider-Man was, and before then we saw Andrew and Toby kind of do the peace sign, and it kind of reminded me of Shattered Dimensions a bit, and they kind of all faded away, all the villains faded away. I had so much fun watching this movie. What a great time it was to see. And again, you know, I gotta say, I would give this movie a 10 out of 10 if it was for me. Like, just the experience, I had so much fun, and I think that's what these movies are for, is to have fun. And, you know, with the times that we're in right now, we need as much fun as we can get. Spider-Man, what a fantastic movie. Spider-Man No Way Home. What a great experience. It really taught a lot of lessons that Tom Holland didn't learn early as he was Spider-Man, and he finally did learn. With great power comes great responsibility. At the end, we see the final swing in this brand new suit that isn't made out of Stark tech or anything like that. It's like an actual costume that Spider-Man has, and it kind of looks like the 80s suit, maybe the 70s a little bit. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this review. It's more of like a review experience type thing. I don't really do these too much, but a lot of people have been asking me when I'll be doing No Way Home fan fictions, and I think I will be doing that probably next week, because I don't want to go into spoilers, because I know a ton of people don't want to get spoiled. I wouldn't want anybody, I wouldn't want to jeopardize your experience. So please do not comment in the comments down below for No Way Home requests, because I do have them written down. I know what I'm gonna do. I know what you want, but let's just all kind of keep it together for at least a week and a half, so then everybody can kind of experience this for themselves. But anyways, if you guys did enjoy this video and enjoyed me rambling on and being in the video, make sure if you do enjoy these to subscribe, like, share, and turn your notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with latest content. But anyways, as always guys, thanks for tuning in, and have a fantastic day.